This call is now being recorded.
Okay. So, as per the syllabus, we have covered little introductory part in our in our earlier 2-3 sessions. Now we will move forward. We will see the content of our practicals, and then we will start with our theory part, so that we will be able to complete our practicals also parallelly, and you will be able to write the practicals also. So if we see our Google Classroom, you can see here I have posted some of the recorded lectures here. You can see this YouTube video link also. Uh, Many earlier lectures of ATP of different semesters are also available on this YouTube platform. You can watch it for your reference or understanding. Then syllabus is available here, assignments I will upload, then video links for reference. I have uploaded some of the external YouTube video links for your thorough understanding of different concepts. You should watch all these videos, and I will update all these details from time to time as per the requirement of syllabus. So few students have not yet joined the Google Classroom. Check whether you have joined the Google Classroom. So term work shall consist of journal from the following serial number 1 to 10 are compulsory. So one is related to development plan, study and analysis of development plan with respect to land use, services, infrastructure, street furniture, housing, neighborhood planning with calculations, and 10 number is Maharera. Maharera Act related, we have one online exercise. We need to visit this Maharera website, and we have to study the procedure related to Maharera Act. Here you can see different projects registered under Maharera are available on this website, and people can analyze the information available on this Maharera website before purchasing any property or can say flat in Maharashtra. You can also go through this website. Then neighborhood planning concept. We will see neighborhood planning concept by Clarence Perry and Clarence Stein. And then in short, these experiments are nothing but some of the, we can say, revision or the discussion on some of the important topics from our syllabus. But these experiments are not like to be performed with respect to readings and its calculation, but its understanding of different concepts through PPTs, videos, and some information available, and writing some of the questions in form of question and answer, and supporting it with the printouts of available material related to that particular topic. So I will guide you accordingly. So report on contribution of engineers, planners, architects in post-independence India. So we will see the planning philosophy of different planners, and accordingly I will allot you the different planners. I will provide you the PPTs of different planners. A report on any existing new towns or planned towns or satellite towns like New Mumbai, Gandhinagar, in relation with town planning aspects inclusive of infrastructure, disaster management. So we will study some of the new towns like Chandigarh, Mumbai, Navi Mumbai, and Gandhinagar. Naya Raipur, or there are some many more towns in India which are planned as new town. So we will understand what is the requirement of new towns, why they are planned so, and how are they now? Means what is the condition of these towns as of today with respect to infrastructure facilities, or you can say disaster management related issues. The next one will be salient features of urban renewal scheme. So as we discussed, there are so many urban renewal schemes like JNNURM, UIDSSMT, or AMRUT, like this. And we will see their salient features. One more important scheme is, we can say, uh, smart smart cities. You must have heard about smart cities. The central government has taken initiative and developed or planned upgradation of many cities in India. And under that mission, you can see smart cities. There is separate website for smart cities mission. And under that, you can see the developments related to smart cities, which cities are to be called as smart, and what type of assistance or help is provided by the government to convert for the conversion of or upgradation of the cities, or to solve the issues of the cities. You can also refer this website, smart cities. On this website you can see some of the basic reports or information which towns are considered for smart city mission, or you can say which cities are selected for the this scheme, and how much progress is there. Okay, we will come back to this particular topic after some time. So study of salient features of urban renewal schemes, then study of any existing town planning scheme. So if we see town planning scheme, you will also come to know that town planning scheme is one of the important aspect or planning tool which is used for development of urban areas. So in urban areas, the urban area keep expanding day by day, and to have plan development we use this particular tool, that is town planning scheme. And town planning scheme is nothing but the area which is on the verge of development is amalgamated or collected together irrespective of the ownership, and then again the proper layouts, road networks are provided, basic infrastructure facilities are provided in that particular area, and again it is distributed proportionately by reducing some of the area for public facilities like gardens, playgrounds, hospitals. So all these reservations are made available from this particularly reduction in the plot sizes, but people are happy because their plots get infrastructure facilities, and indirectly the plot values will also go on increasing. We will see one of the small video related to uh, town planning schemes in Pune. Or we can see that town planning scheme is one of the best tool which is used in the development of Pune, Mumbai, Ahmedabad, and many more towns from British era. We will see one short video related to PMRDA, that is Pune Metropolitan Regional Development Authority, Man Balewadi, and you will get some idea about TP scheme.
पुणे महानगर प्रदेश विकास प्राधिकरण म्हणजे PMRDA हे गेल्या 3 वर्षांपासून पुणे जिल्ह्यात कार्यरत आहे. महाराष्ट्राचे आदरणीय मुख्यमंत्री श्री देवेंद्र फडणवीस यांच्या नेतृत्वाखाली या समितीचे कामकाज पुण्याचे सन्माननीय पालकमंत्री श्री गिरीश बापट आणि IAS महानगर आयुक्त आणि मुख्य कार्यकारी अधिकारी श्री किरण गित्ते यांच्या मार्गदर्शनाखाली चालू आहे. PMRDA हे 72 लाख लोकसंख्येसाठी आणि 7,256 चौरस किलोमीटर क्षेत्रासाठी नियोजित विकासासह शहरीकरणाची मागणी आणि पुरेशा पायाभूत सुविधांसह पुणे शहरातील नागरिकांसाठी एक जीवनदायी जागा निर्माण करेल. नगर रचना योजना ही आगामी विकासासाठी एक उपाय आहे, जे न केवळ प्रगत पायाभूत सुविधांसह विकास क्षेत्र निर्माण करेल, तर सामान्य लोकांना स्वस्त घरांसाठी संधी उपलब्ध करून देईल. गुजरात नगर रचना योजनेमधून प्रेरित होऊन शासनाच्या राष्ट्रीय महामार्गाला स्पर्श करून महाळुंगे माण या क्षेत्राचा विकास करण्याकरता PMRDA ने लक्ष साधलेले आहे. महाळुंगे माण या गावाचा विकास पुणे शहरासाठी आदर्श नियोजन योजना असेल आणि इतर क्षेत्रांमध्ये त्याचप्रमाणे प्रतिलिपित केले जाईल. ही योजना सर्वसमावेशक आणि हिंजवडी IT पार्क परिसरातील वाहतुकीची कोंडी दूर होण्यास मदत करेल. या शहर नियोजनामध्ये सार्वजनिक वस्तूंसाठी पायाभूत सुविधा जसे की रस्ते, फुटपाथ, गार्डन, खेळाचे मैदान, भाजी मंडई आणि अनौपचारिक बाजार, हॉस्पिटल, शाळा, कन्व्हेन्शन सेंटर, पाणी पुरवठा आणि सांडपाणी व्यवस्था, पावसाच्या पाण्याची व्यवस्था, वीज, बस स्टॉप, स्वस्त घरांसाठी सरकारी भूखंड अशा विविध सोयी उपलब्ध करण्यात येणार आहेत. महाळुंगे माणचे 250 हेक्टरचे क्षेत्र मिक्स्ड झोन खाली येणार असून तटई क्षेत्र निर्देशांक 2.4 नुसार 1.5 लाख लोकसंख्या अपेक्षित आहे. ही योजना मुंबई पुणे महामार्गापासून फक्त 300 मीटर दूर आहे. या स्कीम मध्ये 26.4 दशलक्ष चौरस फूट पूर्ण विकास क्षेत्र आहे, ज्यात 38.4 दशलक्ष चौरस फुटाचे रहिवासी क्षेत्र असेल. 16.4 दशलक्ष चौरस फूट किरकोळ आणि कॉर्पोरेट व्यावसायिक जागा व सामान्य लोकांसाठी 5,000 परवडणारी घरे तसेच 2.6 दशलक्ष चौरस फूट जमीन, गार्डन, खेळाचे मैदान आणि ओपन स्पेस, रिव्हरफ्रंट पार्क आणि फुलबागा हे क्षेत्रातील प्रमुख सौंदर्य असेल. 5.1 दशलक्ष चौरस फूट नागरी सुविधांसाठी राखीव आरक्षणाखाली 2 शाळा, 2 रुग्णालये आणि संमेलन केंद्र समान वितरित आहेत. नगर रचना योजनेच्या 21% जागा म्हणजेच 5.4 दशलक्ष चौरस फूट ही रस्त्यासाठी राखीव ठेवण्यात आली आहे. मुख्य 36 मीटर रुंद असा मध्यवर्ती रस्ता म्हणून तयार केला जाईल, की जो हिंजवडी विकसित क्षेत्राला मुंबई पुणे महामार्गासोबत जोडतो. मुळा नदीच्या दिशेने असलेल्या मुख्य रस्त्याला समांतर 18 मीटर रुंदीचा नदीच्या पूर्वेकडील रस्त्याचा अधिक चांगल्या प्रकारे वापर करण्याची योजना आखण्यात आली आहे. उत्तर दक्षिण 24 मीटर रुंद रस्त्याची योजना सूस गावला हिंजवडी सोबत जोडण्यासाठी योजण्यात आली आहे. ह्या नगर रचना योजनेची तयारी आणि अंमलबजावणीची संपूर्ण प्रक्रिया साधारणतः 3 वर्षात पूर्ण होणे अपेक्षित असून ही योजना सार्वजनिक आणि खासगी गुंतवणूकदारांना आकर्षित करेल. PMRDA ने नगर रचना योजनेच्या माध्यमातून सर्व पुणेकरांना एक सुवर्ण संधी साधून दिलेली आहे.
So if you see that particular this land parcel is taken by the government in their hand, and then instead of directly acquiring the land, we can say some of the land parcels are reserved for the public utilities or public facilities like gardens, playgrounds, and all these things. And remaining part will be provided to the original landowners, but you will see that they have provided the proper road network, proper road layouts. Earlier, the plot sizes may be different, and there may be issues in the road connectivity. We may not be able to lay the proper roads also, because generally plot boundaries are not in form of grid iron pattern. So we will see some of the grid iron pattern planned cities from the USA. You will be happy to see some of the planning from developed Western countries also. You can just search out for such topics and watch as much as possible, because ultimately this will clear your ideas and concepts in detail. So TP scheme is one of the important topic in MPSC examination also.
Welcome to the course of urban planning. In this section today, we are further going to explore town planning schemes as an example of local area plan within the larger ambit of different levels of plans. As we had seen earlier, examples of local area plans include zonal plan, sub-city plan, town planning schemes, ward committee plan, coastal zone management plan, urban redevelopment plan. So today we are going to cover town planning schemes. Accordingly, the coverage of this section will include concept of town planning scheme, terminologies involved, areas where it is applied, components of town planning scheme and redistribution process, merits and shortcoming of the scheme, techniques of reconstitution. We'll look at case examples. We'll also look at town planning procedure. And then lastly, we'll view the transitions which have really taken place on ground. The learning outcomes targeted in this lecture today are you should be able to describe the concept and identify terminologies. You should be able to review its applicability. You should be able to identify components of town planning scheme. You will be able to review the process, techniques, and merits. You will be able to discuss and review the case studies. Now, looking at the concept of town planning scheme, as we know that the local area plans are the part of development plan. Town planning scheme are also part of the development plan, and we can say are the building blocks in realization of the development plan of the city. In India, town planning scheme is mostly applied in peri-urban areas for the planning and designing of the greenfield projects or partially developed areas such as new towns. The scheme is also used for infrastructure development through the consolidation of land such as roads and public parks. Town planning scheme has also been used for core area revitalization and post-disaster areas in the country. The state of Gujarat has applied it for post-disaster rehabilitation in Bhuj following a strong earthquake in 2001. However, the cases are very limited. In the development plan, the planning is done at a macro level for the entire city for a larger time frame without specific details for the smaller areas. Whereas in town planning scheme, the planning is undertaken at a micro level where the detailed plan is prepared for the smaller areas ranging from 50 to 500 hectares or more land. In this image of Ahmedabad city of Gujarat, we can see that how 46 town planning schemes together contributed in the realization of 76 kilometer long and 60 meter wide ring road proposed for the city in the development plan. Town planning scheme is distinct from other types owing to its planning process. The planning process under town planning scheme consists of merging and redistribution of land parcels in the urban expansion zone. The basic concept of town planning scheme is to pool together all the land under different ownership and redistribute it in a properly reconstituted form after carving out the required land for open spaces, social infrastructure, services, housing for economically weaker section of the population, and the road network. The core purpose of town planning scheme mechanism is to service the land with the infrastructure and the amenities in the peri-urban areas, which are likely to grow haphazardly in absence of any regulated plan. We are seeing the image which illustrates this land pooling mechanism. It shows the irregular plots reconfigured into proper shapes by laying the road network and the contribution of part land by landowners for reserving a parcel of land for sale on the open market. In this method, the public planning agencies or development authority temporarily brings together a group of landowners for planning under the aegis of state level town or urban planning act. This process enables the development authority to develop land without fully acquiring it and giving it positive control over the design and the growth of peri-urban area. Availability of land for development at minimum cost to development authorities and effective improvement of the environment is the fundamental objective of the technique. The readjustment technique is hence beneficial to the owners, local authorities, and the town. Further, they can cooperate and provide a proportional contribution towards the cost. Town planning scheme is a mechanism that is used to unlock the value of the land that was previously subdued by plot fragmentation and land ownership patterns, which are incompatible with the optimal use of land. In many urban areas, land is typically divided into many small, irregular shaped and sized plots, each with a different landholder holding particular interest. The outcome is often a haphazard and incoherent development with little reference to planning guidelines, poor infrastructure, inadequate provision of services, and lack of public space. In some cases, unplanned development leads to sprouting of informal settlements where large number of poor people are crammed into restricted areas with poor living conditions and insecure tenure. Land pooling, as we see in town planning scheme, is one way of acquiring land. Land acquisition is another way to provide land for development purpose. However, it is growing concern in many countries that land acquisition may not be the most suitable mechanism for procuring land and servicing it. It tends to affect lives and livelihood by displacing people, takes away land rights from the landowners, and sometimes does not capture the land value appropriately, affecting the compensation and thus possibly making it financially non-lucrative for the landowners. Town planning scheme is used extensively throughout the world. The roots of town planning scheme can be traced from Holland and Germany in the 1890s. It was quickly adopted for urban development across the globe. It played a leading role when urbanization peaked in Seoul and Tokyo from the 1960s until 1980s. It has also been used in smaller Korean towns. It has been used across several other countries such as Germany, Holland, Nepal, Indonesia, and Australia. In India, we mostly refer the process as town planning scheme. It is also referred as land readjustment, land pooling, land consolidation, and land reconstitution. The core idea remains the same. However, may differ between countries in terms of its structuring, implementation, and approval procedure, land value capturing, and eligibility of the use of this mechanism. Furthermore, only the designated public authority implement it with no or limited involvement of the private sector. Now, looking at the areas where this mechanism is used. In India, we see that town planning scheme is more frequently employed to urbanize peri-urban rural land. In other international examples, we can see that it has also been used to redevelop existing urban areas, such as Rotterdam city centre. The city of Rotterdam was rebuilt dramatically after World War II with this method. This method transformed the city and incorporated new roads, cycling roads, green spaces, courtyards, and parks into the city center. As we can see, this city center in Rotterdam developed through this mechanism. Japan used this scheme extensively for reconstructing post-2 areas and continues to apply it to the various development areas, including new town development in peri-urban areas, post-disaster reconstruction, city center and station area redevelopment, improvement of congested and wooden residential areas, integrated land readjustment with railway development, small-scale land readjustment for land consolidation in urbanized areas. This image presents an example of the typical implementation of scheme for land consolidation and urban expansion in Japan. Looking at the case of urban renewal in China using this mechanism, we see the transformation case of Laide village, one of the 52 villages in the city identified by municipal government for a complete transformation. Now, looking at the case of urban renewal in Colombia using this mechanism, the area of intervention is located in Las Aguas neighborhood. Primary use of the land, nearly 38% in the zone, was residential and nearly 21% parking, creating unsafe urban vacuum. The final urban proposal resulting from the discussion with neighborhood actors and the city authorities gave a new reconfiguration of the public and private space and increased public areas. Now we look at the Laidata case of land readjustment for informal settlement upgradation at Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. Laidata is redevelopment process was initiated when residents submitted a petition to the city. Laidata was one of the earliest settlement with no formal land ownership and development plan. Among the key positive outcomes, the land readjustment scheme increased housing supply by over 2,300 units. The rent to buy system was also vital for redistributing wealth and empowering the poor. In this case, the project also achieved a well-balanced land use with adaptive and responsive adjustments to all stakeholders' demands of land for public and private housing and commercial development, as well as public roads and open space. Now we look at the case of slum redevelopment in our country in Nagpur. A large slum extending 1.9 hectares called Jatarodi with nearly 1,000 people living in 279 household with average family size of 4.45 per house was taken up for transition. Such intervention allowed to review the potential of such tool for both the city and slum residents to capture the land value. Moving forward, now we see components of town planning scheme. First component is the public agency, which plays a key role. Second, the landowner participation. Third, the subsidy for infrastructure funding and the coordination with the higher level planning. Looking at the role of public agency, states undertake the process by appropriating and consolidating a portion of land from the land right holders for infrastructure development and returning the replotted, reshaped, and regularized parcel of service land. This helps in achieving multiple objectives. One, providing infrastructure and public facilities in an organized manner. Then increasing the usage and values of land, containing haphazard development through systematic land use planning. Public agency does not incur the land acquisition cost for this kind of development. Public agency is able to finance the urban development through the betterment charges and the sale of land. Now, considering the landowner participation, landowner's participation is usually mandatory. The written consent of the majority of the landowners is required for all projects. There are few exceptions. In cases where participation is voluntarily, consent of simple majority of landowners is required. We can see in the exception case, like in Holland, the project requires the approval of either the majority of the landowners, or if the project is for agriculture purpose, the landowners whose holdings constitute the majority of land area, their consent would be sufficient. Other example, as we saw in Rotterdam City, compulsory readjustment was adopted to rebuild the 158-hectare Rotterdam city center after World War II. In Japan, the government can initiate the project without the landowner's consent where important planning goals are at stake. Now, looking at the subsidy component, subsidy for infrastructure funding requirements vary among countries, ranging from entirely self-financing town planning scheme project in Korea and Gujarat, where the betterment charges and the revenues from the sale of land fund the project. In Japan, tax revenue are used to acquire land for the construction of arterial roads. In Europe, the local government typically bear a portion of infrastructure costs. Now, looking at coordination of the town planning scheme with the higher level of planning, the town planning scheme projects typically must be consistent with the higher level, that is, with the city and regional plans. For example, in Holland, a town planning scheme project should be consistent with the regional plan. Similarly, in Finland and Japan, it should be consistent with the local or the city plan. Now we'll look at how the land distribution is done. The size of the final plot, like after the redistribution, we call it final plot, is in proportion to the size of the original plot. And its location is as close as possible to the original plot. Value capturing financing tools such as betterment or development charges and the sales of reserved plots are used to finance the provision of urban infrastructure and amenities under town planning scheme. Development authorities levy betterment charges on landowners to offset the cost of infrastructure and service provision and sell the reserved plots on the open market to finance the overall project development cost. A landowner typically parts with up to 25 to 50% of their land, his or her land, and pays betterment charges for the development of the final plot with the provision of infrastructure and services. Local level development authorities implement this scheme under the directives of the state government, and they do not engage private developers directly for the implementation. Under this scheme, the development authority has the mandate to reserve land for housing for economically weaker section of the society, nearly 5 to 10% of the land, which it offers to low-income household on the basis of the drawing of lots at a subsidized value when the construction is complete. We will now look at commonly acknowledged merits of town planning scheme in India. The process has had a historical presence since 1915, and since then the legislation has improved continuously to suit the changing context of development. The scheme is a win-win, one in which landowner receives service land with incremental value and the development agency controls haphazard-free development and promotes planned urban growth. The town planning scheme respects land rights. It does not displace landowners, but gives them a regularized plot in the same parcel of land as close as possible to their original plot. Unlike the land acquisition mechanism, which entails forced displacement. The extensive consultation process with the landowners makes them part of the planning process, which minimizes the potential resistance to the development. The procedure gives ample opportunities to the owners to put forward their point of view to the authority and raise objections, if any. The process is transparent, follows a set procedure, and is fair as all owners lose the same proportion of land. The landowners offset the development cost by contributing betterment charges and through the sale of reserved land, making it a self-financing model, at least partially, if not fully. It is mandatory for the town planning scheme to reserve some areas for economically weaker section of the society, promoting equitable and inclusive social development. If we look at the monetary benefit of this scheme, we see town planning scheme offers 3 key monetary benefits. The public agency does not incur the land acquisition cost. The public agency is able to finance urban development through betterment charges and the sale of land. The landowners gain from the appreciation in the land value due to the provision of infrastructure. In rapidly growing urban areas, the land value gain on remaining land parcel often far exceeds the sum of betterment charges paid by the landowners and the monetary value of the unserviced land transferred by the landowners to the public agency. Now, reviewing the shortcomings of the town planning scheme concept and procedure that impede the scalability of this tool, we see that the method is very comprehensive and hence time consuming. While the state government typically allocates 2 to 4 years to planning and implementation, the town planning scheme from the time of notification or showing intent, the process usually takes longer than that given the amount of consultation and delay in the approval required at multiple stages. In some places in Gujarat, the town planning scheme has remained unfinished for more than 15 to 20 years. The complexity in executing the scheme requires established guidelines and trained planners and officials. And the developing authorities do not always have appropriate human resources. The success of the scheme is highly reliant on the role of town planning officer, TPO, and if this position holder is not a strong candidate, then the scheme becomes a challenge. An assessment of the betterment charges takes place at the beginning of the process. When the scheme is under preparation to fund the infrastructure development cost, due to inordinate delay in finalizing schemes, the cost of infrastructure provision usually increases, creating a viability gap in meeting the project development cost. The town planning scheme discriminates against land leaseholders and renters by not allowing them to participate in the consultation process during the planning, designing, and implementation of the scheme. Only registered landowners are engaged. Now we will look at techniques involved in the plot reconstitution process. We see that the first declaration of intention is made with the related area. Then the draft scheme, the layout is prepared. Thereafter, preliminary scheme is prepared indicating the reconstitution. Then the final scheme evaluation and redistribution is undertaken. It is then opened for appeal and modification to look at any litigations. Then the final sanction of the scheme implementation is made. In this entire process, we look at the role of town planner officer. Town planning officer, a quasi-judicial officer, is appointed following the approval of draft town planning scheme. The town planning officer's task is to deal with each landowner on 2 cases, the physical planning proposal, where the shape and location of the final plot is decided, and the other on the final proposal, the compensation and the betterment issues are discussed. Eventually, the town planning officer demarcates the final plot on the ground and hands it over to the owner. The town planning officer divides the sanctioned draft town planning scheme into 2 parts to enable better functioning. A preliminary town planning scheme to deal with the physical planning proposal and a final town planning scheme to deal with the financial proposal. The town planning officer hears the grievances and objection of each landowner on the physical and fiscal plans and revises the preliminary and the final scheme respectively. For the finalization of the preliminary scheme, the town planning officer can seek inputs from the state government, local authority, and the development authority. Now we look at the case examples from Ahmedabad to understand the plot redistribution. Case of town planning scheme Bhopal 3, Bodhdev 1B and Town Planning Scheme 50. We see in this table how much final land parcel was given to landowner, percentage of land which went for infrastructure and facilities such as roads and low-income housing, and the land which was reserved for sale. We now see the land deduction breakup for the 3 town planning scheme. Average deduction was from 15 to 36%. In this table, we see how systematically betterment charges are calculated based on percentage of land deducted, original plot, final plot, and their respective land values. Now we look at the town planning scheme procedure. The process of planning and executing the town planning scheme is comprehensive and long, involving many steps. For instance, it has 50 steps for Gujarat. It typically takes up to 4 years to implement the scheme, and completion should ideally take place within the stipulated time as the Act of the state determines. It is a 3-stage, broadly speaking, 3-stage process for drafting plans and seeking approvals: draft, preliminary, and final. The illustration below shows the broad procedure that Gujarat follows. We will now look at stepwise these procedure and how it really looks on ground. We see that there's delineation of town planning scheme area, where the town planning has to come, so that area is identified. Then we see the original plot earmarking. So the original plots are marked, each and every original plots are marked. Thereafter, as per the development plan, road networks are superimposed. So you see that the road network has been superimposed over it. And then neighborhood level road network is prepared. You can see all the neighborhood level network which is coming up here. This we are looking at the town planning scheme 25 of Ahmedabad. Thereafter, we see all the land required for public purpose are demarcated in this area. Like we see school area here, another public area here, and all the green area for garden and other purpose, which are demarcated for public purpose. Thereafter, we see reconstitution of the final plots. So you see that how was the initial plot, and now you can see very well organized final plots here. After this, original plot value is taken, which is derived from last 5 years sales record from the date of declaration of intention. And then semi-plot value is determined on the respective of the original plot. Then finally, the final plot value is worked out on the incremental value. And this plot has all the services which it has. So you can see the range of plot values here as per the services it gets. There's the prescribed form for financial calculation, what are made as per the original plot and then the final plot here. And we see how implementation takes place, and the cost and other things are worked out. This is a prescribed form for financial calculation. So you see here all the expenditure, other expenditure which are being taken care of, and all these calculations are made. Here you can see how all the town plans, we can see the mosaic of 7 town planning schemes here, including the town planning scheme 25 here. So we see how the organized structure comes up. We can see here in this plan image that how through this scheme, the peri-urban area, the agricultural raw land, you can see here, which the image of 2001, how it gets transformed into the urbanized development when we see the image of 2011. Now we'll see the transformation on ground in Ahmedabad from 2000 to 2017. We will see how the development in the city is organized through this scheme. So here we see transformation on ground, 2000 to 2017. Similarly, we see organized transformation in Mehsana from 2003 to 2016. You can see all the structured development in these areas. You can see all this plotted development here around these areas. You can further see how this has expanded. Area has expanded with the implementation of guided planning. Likewise, in this image of Surat, we see structured development from 2000 to 2016. You can see image of Surat from 2000 to 2016, how it's ranging. We see how the plotted development is taking place. You can see where gradually how each area is developing in a very organized manner. So likewise, you will see in these series of images of Baner and Handewadi in Pune, how urban development was guided gradually through these schemes. I have borrowed these slides from the lecture of Professor Utpal Sharma. So we can see here how these developments are taking place on ground. We can see in the case of Baner, in Pune, here we can see the Baner area and Handewadi area. So we see how the gradual transformation is taking place. You can see all the plotted areas here. So this is the close-up of Baner we see here. And then you see how gradually this area, you'll take note of these areas, how these areas are gradually growing. All the structures are gradually coming up along with the roads. So you see how it is getting densified and urbanization is taking place along the guided routes. So we see in 2017 how the structured development has come up, which has access to road and all these services. Now we see Handewadi area. This is the image of 2003, where we see very less development. But gradually we'll see how with the scheme it has been guided, the development has been guided. You see how all these buildings, which you can see in the image, is coming up. See the expansion which is happening across and how the densification is happening, the guided urbanization we can see here, this area. So we see 2017 image, you can see how the plotted development has happened in the Handewadi area in Pune. Now we'll take a view of transition which has taken place in Gujarat, Ahmedabad through the town planning scheme. We see here that total number of town planning scheme nearly 245 and proposed new town planning schemes are 11. Through these, they have been able to create the 76-kilometer long and 60-meter wide ring road through these town planning schemes. So you see how it acts as a building block as well, that it allows realization of this entire ring road, which was proposed in the development plan through these small town planning schemes. Now we'll look at the case of transition of Bhopal in Ahmedabad. We'll see how it transformed from 2000 to 2017. We are looking at the Bhopal Ambali area in Ahmedabad, 2000, the town planning schemes. We see the image taken in 2000. You can see how less the development is, and eventually, gradually, how the development is increasing. The plotting development is happening. We see in these areas. This is the image taken in 2006. See the structured development happening. You can see again all these densification and urbanization taking place in this area. So we see this 2017 image. So you see the structured and high density growth here, all these residential buildings coming here. So this is how we see the transformation really gradually looks on ground when these planning schemes are executed. You see through this example that this SP ring road was developed through these execution of planning scheme in the area. We look at another example in Sola, Ahmedabad. We again see how the area is developing. You can see in 2000, there's more of agriculture area. And then eventually you see how the roads are being developed. Further road network is intensified, and then the guided plotted development is taking place. And further we see how dense it is becoming and the structured development which you can witness here. So this is 2017 image which you can see of this area. So we see that through town planning scheme, we have been able to achieve regional level infrastructure. As you have seen that the ring road was created. You could also see that city level infrastructure was created for socially and economically weaker section people. Water supply, sewerage, recreational, social infrastructure and all was provided, and then also city level road network was created. Likewise, you also see that neighborhood level infrastructure was also created through these schemes, including water supply network, sewerage network, neighborhood level recreational areas, neighborhood level road network, neighborhood level lighting, land for civic center and neighborhood center, and other public utility services were provided, land for educational purposes were taken out. So we see the glimpses of all the work which was done through these town planning scheme. We were able to create gardens, lakes, and affordable housing projects. We were able to create the physical infrastructure projects. We were able to create sports complexes and recreational facilities. As you can see in the image here, we were able to create EWS housing. We were able to create roads, bridges, and flyovers. So as you've seen, what is really happening on ground and how these schemes have been employed to employed as a tool of local area planning and basically used for realization of the development plan. So summarizing what we have learned today, we have seen the concept of town planning scheme. We looked at various terminologies. We looked at where these can be applied. We looked at the components of town planning scheme and the redistribution process. We also looked at the merits and shortcoming of the scheme. We also looked at the techniques of reconstitution. We looked at the case examples. We looked at the town planning procedure, and we viewed how transition is taking place on ground. So these were the references used. Our coverage was limited with the scope to make you aware of the topic. There are enormous readings and movies available to explore. Few are suggested here. This is not an extensive list. You may feel free to suggest more from your experience. Please feel free to ask questions. Let us know about your concerns. You have to share your opinion, experiences, and suggestions. Looking forward to interacting and co-learning with you while exploring cities and urban planning. Thank you.
Okay, I hope you got some insight from this video, informative video. So this is part of a lecture series. You can watch all the videos from this, we can say, NPTEL course. So this is part of there is one interesting NPTEL course. urban and rural planning, urban and housing. So I will provide you the link of that particular course. You do register and watch the all videos.
Otherwise also. Therefore, utilizing that resource for the common good, for the service or the development has to be very much careful. Improvement of the direct rules and regulations not implemented regional planning. So one by one, let's see the settlement. Satellite image is literacy word-wise. Solid waste management. So solid waste management also give you idea and will help you to make such Bharat plan action and all those kind of activities. You can see it is mentioned.
Housing and urban planning is the name of the subject. So this is regarding town planning scheme. So this is actually important tool that is generally used in many cities from, we can say, many years, or we can say way back to about 100 or 200 years also. And in most of the developed countries also, this tool is used. And now we are using it in different forms like neighborhood planning concept. Then because there is some objection, or we can say resistance from the landowners to spare few land, percentage, or we can say partially their land for the development of the infrastructure facilities. So government has come up with the different tools that we will see under, we can say, special township. So this objective is achieved through private owners. SEZ is on the same line, MIDC is on the same line. You can say land is required for the development of urban infrastructure facilities, but land acquisition was the issue. So government has come up with the different compensation, and now people are happy to, we can say, hand over their lands also, preferably in the rural areas, because they are getting more compensation as compared to their market value. But in urban areas, people are not that much ready to hand over their lands, because they know that in urban areas, due to urbanization, there is too much value or demand for their land. So we will see all these issues and planning tools with respect to, we can say, planning agencies like SIDCO, MADA, MIDC, MMRDA, PMRDA, then infrastructure or transportation infrastructure planning for the urban areas, then MRTP Act 1966. In that, you will see regional plan, development plan, or town planning schemes, in the hierarchical order. So regional plan is for district level, development plan is for we can say urban area or taluka center. Town planning scheme is part of that particular development plan or the area which is on the verge of development. You have seen now how that particular uh, reconstitution of the plots is carried out. So earlier plots may be of different size and shape, but now you can have proper planned layout, and accordingly uh, part of it can be reserved for the uh, infrastructure facilities like post office, playgrounds, schools, gardens, and remaining land can be handed over to the landowners by reducing that particular proportion for the urban infrastructure facilities. And betterment charges are also taken from the people so that we can add some infrastructure facilities in that particular area, or cost of infrastructure development is taken from the people as a betterment charge. But as compared to this betterment charge, the land value increases in many we can say times. So people are happy, or people will be happy to get uh, more value for their land, remaining land, and people are free to utilize this reconstituted plots and sell it at the market rate. So generally you will see that most of the ring roads or the area which is on the verge of development in the peripheries, peri-urban areas are developed by using such schemes. In Pune also, if we see in Pune, the area of Erandwana, Shivajinagar, then Gokhale Nagar, Senapati Bapat Road. So all this area is developed by this TP scheme concept only, because in that particular scheme we do not require compulsory land acquisition. So land acquisition uh, is associated with the compensation. So government need not to provide compensation for the acquired land, because that is taken out of the whole amalgamated area, and remaining land is returned to the landowners. Here you can see, if you must have visited the Pune. So this is you can say Shaniwar Wada here. Okay, here is Shaniwar Wada. So earlier Pune was limited to these pet areas only. Now you can see that with due course of time, it is expanded on the roads. This is Solapur Road, this is Nashik Road, this is Pune Road, sorry, Mumbai Road, Wakad Bypass, and then again here you will see Satara Road. So this bypass was constructed way back to reduce the traffic congestion, but now you will see that this area is also crowded now, and many developments has been occurred along this Wakad bypass. So now government is planning for again ring road, a larger ring road, so that it will connect like these radius. These are the radius, the roads which are originating from the city center are considered as radius, and this will be like a circle. So this is inner circle, that is inner ring road, and now there will be one more another larger circle, and that will cover the whole Pune urban area, so that a person going from Kolhapur to Mumbai will not be required to wait or experience the traffic jam in the Pune. So he should not take, we can say, part in the ट्रॅफिक जॅम ड्यू टू मॅरेज ऑन द वॉकड रोड. बरोबर आहे का नाही? म्हणजे एखादं लग्नाची मिरवणूक चाललेली असेल आणि त्याला जायचं आहे मुंबईला आणि तो इथं पुण्यामध्ये अडकलेला आहे, असं व्हायला नको. म्हणून आता काय करत आहोत आपण की या पुण्याला पूर्ण हा बाहेरून बायपास टाकत आहोत. परंतु या ठिकाणी लँड ॲक्विजिशन हा मोठा इश्यू असतो, म्हणून आपण टीपी स्कीम या कन्सेप्टद्वारे लँड अक्वायर करतो, वेअर वी डिड नॉट गिव्ह कॉम्पेन्सेशन टू द पीपल, बट as people get road accessibility and the infrastructure facilities, they are happy with the betterment charges or sparing of 30% of the land for the development of city or development of infrastructure facilities in the city. So in Pune also you can see this Kothurud or Model Colony, Ideal Colony, all these Karvenagar areas are part of TP scheme, planned 30, 40 or almost we can say 60, 70 years back. So that time they have planned it luxuriously, but now we can say that this is not sufficient as per the requirement of present traffic and transportation issues. But still you can see that it is feeling like a good plan for the city, and you can enjoy the life of urban area or urban city area. So you will find that all this well planned or well planning is done through TP scheme only, town planning schemes. You can watch some more videos on town planning schemes and you will get idea about how it is planned. And if we go to other developed countries like USA, you will see that we are going to study different concepts, different planning philosophies of different planners also. Then we will see as a case study different cities developed by different planners also. You will see that in India, Chandigarh is one of the planned city. Here you will see that this plus type road network is called as grid iron pattern. So here you will see that the hierarchy of road pattern is properly maintained on the line of USA or we can say some foreign developed countries or cities. And accordingly you will find all the proper distribution of residential areas, industrial areas and administrative areas in the city. And throughout the city you will find that gardens are predominant and there is large percentage of gardens provided in the city areas. So here you will see some administrative buildings also. हरियाणा विधानसभा, आपलं जे नरिमन पॉइंटला विधान भवन आहे त्या पद्धतीने इथं त्यांनी तयार केलेलं आहे ॲट चंदीगड. So this is plan of Chandigarh. You will see, or if we get opportunity, we will also visit Chandigarh. It will be a great trip to visit Chandigarh to understand the planning of that particular capital city, and also with respect to tourism planning, we may visit to Shimla and Kulu Manali also. It is near to Chandigarh, Shimla, Kulu Manali. So we need to understand the importance of tourism planning and its role in the development of nation. So tourism planning, town planning are important aspect. Now we will see or move towards some of the European countries. Here you will find that Dubai has also good infrastructure projects. So this is desert actually, but they have used this seawater and developed their infrastructure like this. So here also you will find that proper road network or plants are there, and there is no haphazard development. So if we permit the landowners to develop that particular land or area, then you will not find the development in such planned fashion, because our plots are not in such shape. Our plots are of different shape, the irregular shapes are there, and accordingly the roads or the services provided will be also in same manner or in same fashion. But here you will see that proper road layouts are provided, and it is only possible after combining all area as a single land parcel, and then again providing proper layout, then providing the road network, reserving some of the land parcels for the urban infrastructure facilities, and redistributing remaining land to the landowners. This is the principle of TP scheme, and almost this is used in most of the cities worldwide. And we are taking, or we can say copying this uh, methodology for development of urban areas. Britishers have started this particular concept in our India also during their period. In Pune, Mumbai, Ahmedabad, they have developed some part of our city in terms of town planning scheme. Then now we will see some of the cities in USA also. You will wonder to see that in USA, maximum cities are planned, or if we zoom in any city, you will see that there is proper planning of all the cities. कुठलीही सिटी बघा तुम्ही, कुठेही झूम करत गेला तुम्ही, you will find that they have followed this grid iron pattern for the road network. Okay, they have called it as states, different state. आपल्या राज्यात जसे स्टेट्स असतात त्या पद्धतीने. This is Colorado state, this is Kansas, Missouri, then this is Louisiana, Alabama. Okay, there are so many states, and their boundaries are not limited to river boundaries or road boundaries like India. They have considered it as a rectangle or square, and even all the cities are connected by freeways or expressways of different levels. Now if we zoom in this particular city, you will see, or you will be surprised that how is it possible to plan such city in a decent manner. See, रांगोळी काढले, रांगोळी तरी माणसाला काढणं अवघड वाटेल बघा. हे सगळं स्प्रॉल डेव्हलपमेंट आहेत, बंगलेज आहेत, परंतु ते सगळे म्हणजे लक्झरियस प्लॅनिंग आहे, त्यामुळे त्याच्यामध्ये झाडं जास्त दिसत आहेत, बंगले जास्त दिसत आहेत. परंतु तुम्ही असं कुठेही गेला तरी तुम्हाला त्याच पद्धतीने बघा, फ्लायओव्हर्स तेवढेच आहेत, आपल्याकडे चुकून एखादा फ्लायओव्हर दिसतो कुठेतरी. यू विल सी इंटेलिजंट ट्रान्सपोर्टेशन सिस्टीम, कशा पद्धतीने त्यांनी सगळं प्लॅन केलेलं आहे. हायवेच्या कडेने मोठमोठे बिल्डिंग और प्रोजेक्ट यू कॅन सी. काहीतरी इंडस्ट्रियल प्रोजेक्ट असावा हा. रेल्वे ट्रॅक आहे, इथून सिमेंट इंडस्ट्री असू शकते बघा. So you also must do post graduation from US, that is MS in town planning, urban planning, or transportation planning, construction management, and get good opportunity there itself, because they have shown it that how one can plan the cities very well. आपल्यासारखे ट्रॅफिक जाम वगैरे तिथे दिसणार नाही तुम्हाला बघा. आणि प्रत्येक सिटीला जवळपास एअरपोर्ट आहेच. आपल्या खूप सिटी कमी आहेत की जिथे चांगल्या प्रकारे अशा फॅसिलिटीज असतात. आणि यू विल बी सरप्राइज टू नो दॅट जिथं त्यांचं शहर संपतं किंवा एखादी डेव्हलपमेंट संपते, उरलेल्या भागामध्ये तिथं शेती पण चांगली असू शकते. पण आपल्याकडे शक्यता असं होत नाही. आपल्याकडे काय होतं, इथं लगेच स्लम, अनऑथराइज डेव्हलपमेंट, कुठेतरी झोपड्या, कुठेतरी टपऱ्या येतात. इथे जे काही कमर्शियल कॉम्प्लेक्स वगैरे असतात ते बघा रस्त्यावर तुम्हाला काही दिसणार नाही. म्हणजे आपल्याकडे कसं असतं की जनरली रस्त्यावर चहा किंवा छोटे छोटे शॉप्स वगैरे असतात. इथं तुम्हाला पर्टिक्युलरली काही शॉपिंग करायचे असेल तर तुम्हाला रस्त्यावरून असं खाली उतरावं लागेल आणि इथं जाऊन खाली जाऊन तुम्हाला शॉपिंग करावी लागेल. असं तुम्हाला असं रस्त्यावर काही मिळत नाही इथे. म्हणजे आपल्यासारखे रस्त्यावर ट्रॅफिक जॅम किंवा एखाद्याने रस्त्यावरच गाडी लावली आहे मस्तपैकी, ज्याला जायचं त्याने जा, किंवा काय फरक पडतो, अशा प्रकारे नसतं. हिअर यू कॅन सी द चेंज. ॲग्रिकल्चर ॲज वेल ॲज अर्बन एरिया, एवढा क्लिअर कट डिफरन्स तुम्हाला लक्षात दिसणार नाही कुठे. बघा आणि जर तुम्ही अजून दुसऱ्या एरियामध्ये जर गेला तर तुम्हाला कुठेही जा तुम्हाला तेच दिसेल. इकडे जरी गेला तरी तुम्हाला कॅलिफोर्निया जर डेझर्टचा भाग आहे, हिअर ऑल्सो यू विल सी दॅट agriculture is carried out with small percentage of water. See, yeah, this is desert, and here also you will find that road network is planned properly. What do you see here? Small bungalows. Are you able to see? You can see it on your mobile also by using Google Earth or Maps, Google Maps. तुम्ही अमेरिकेला गेला तर माघारी येणार नाहीत एकदा. सो जायला पाहिजे त्यासाठी एकदा अगोदर. हे पॅन्डेमिक सिच्युएशन वगैरे आहेत, बट वी शुड विजिट सच सिटीज ॲट वन्स ॲट लिस्ट. हिअर यू कॅन सी स्प्रिंकलर इरिगेशन. See these projects. I will explain all the topics related to or planning tools related to town planning in our regular sessions. And this is surprisingly you can say that this is not the case of a single town they have planned. This is the thing of all the cities in USA. In east side, in west side, north or south, everywhere, wherever you go, you will find same kind of development. See here the kind of development. Do you think that you can plan on such massive scale in India? आपण जर यातला एक तुकडा जरी प्लॅन केला तरी आपण खूप मोठा बिल्डर होईल इथं. आर यू ॲग्री? काय वाटतं तुम्हाला? आणि कंटिन्युअस अशा स्ट्रेचमध्ये आपल्याला असं डेव्हलप करता येईल का? Or is there really necessity of planning to such a large scale? See how they have planned. आणि बघा तो कुठला भाग होता, एकदम कोस्टल एरिया मधला छोटासा तुकडा होता. म्हणून अमेरिका पुढे आहे एवढी. बघा आपल्या सगळीकडे आपण ज्यावेळेस अमेरिका अमेरिका म्हणतो ते का म्हणायचं अमेरिका ते लक्षात आलं असेल तुमच्या. तो काय होमा सिटी, ही सिटी बघा, काय कुठली सिटी बघितली तशीच आहे, सेम प्रिन्सिपल फॉलो केलेला आहे. मग तुमच्या लक्षात येईल की सी दिस एअरपोर्ट, there are so many aeroplanes also landed here. So planning requires good legislations, manpower, and cooperation from the residents. And we can say ultimately it will require huge cost also. रोड आपल्याकडे एक एक रोड मेंटेन करणं होत नाही. and here you will see that there are huge road network. आपल्याकडे एखादं शहर असं तयार केलं तर ते आपल्या इंडियामध्ये फेमस होईल. And see this countryside. Here also you will find that good quality roads are there. So people can take vehicles or machineries to the fields. कुठेही झूम करून बघा तुम्ही, त्यावर तुमच्या लक्षात आहे. आय एम जस्ट शोईंग यू टू गेट यू एक्सपोजर ऑफ ऑल दिस थिंग्स. रोड नेटवर्क कसे आहेत ते बघा फक्त. कुठलाही एरिया झूम केला तरी तुम्हाला तसंच दिसतंय. यू विल बिकम कन्फ्यूज. तर हायवेला सुद्धा किती ॲडव्हान्स प्रकारचे काय म्हणता येईल आपल्याला ट्रान्झिशन किंवा एक पर्टिक्युलर टर्म आहे, बघूयात आपण पुढे. फ्लॉवर लिफ जंक्शन किंवा अशा प्रकारचे फ्लायओव्हर्स वगैरे बघा कसे दिलेले आहेत. आपल्याकडे असे खूप रेअर असतील. गेम मध्ये खेळल्यासारखं वाटते. ज्या आर्टिफिशियल गेम्स असतात त्याच्यावरती जे खेळतात ना मुलं, काहीतरी गोळ्या झाडाची कामं करतात, धड 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 तसं. तर हे रिअल आहे, एवढं तुमच्या लक्षात आलं तरी खूप झालं की दे हॅव प्लॅन्ड इट ऑन ग्राउंड.
have this entire misunderstanding of what Darwin really meant when he said survival of the fittest.
New York City considered the most developed and densely populated city in the United States. In this video we are going to show you the evolution of New York City, from the early settlers, up to the modern bustling city of today. But before anything else, please consider subscribe for more interesting videos. During the pre-colonial era, New York was inhabited by Native Americans. In 1594, the first European explorer visited New York was Giovanni da Verrazzano, a Florentine explorer in the service of the French crown. He claimed the area for France and named it Nouvelle-Angole. In 1625, Dutch begun ruling the area known as Lower Manhattan today. They built a citadel in Fort Amsterdam, and later attract more settlers in the area. In 1664, English begun ruling after the surrender of the Dutch. The fledgling settlement was promptly renamed the place New York after the Duke of York. In 1700, New York grew in importance as a trading port. In 1776, during the American Revolution, in the Battle of Long Island, the largest battle of the American Revolutionary War, in which the Americans were defeated, the British made the city their military and political base of operations in North America. In 1790, New York had surpassed Philadelphia to become the largest city in the United States. In the 19th century, the city was transformed by development relating to its status as a national and international trading center, as well as by European immigration. In 1898, the modern city of New York was formed with the consolidation of Brooklyn, the county of New York, which then included parts of the Bronx, the county of Richmond, and the western portion of the county of Queens. In 1904, the opening of the subway helped bind the new city together. Throughout the first half of the 20th century, the city became a world center for industry, commerce, and communication. In 1920, New York became the most populous urbanized area in the world, overtaking London. The metropolitan area surpassed the 10 million mark in the early 1930s, becoming the first megacity in human history. Today, New York City is the most densely populated major city in the United States. With almost 20 million people in its metropolitan statistical area, it is one of the world's most populous megacities. New York City has been described as the cultural, financial, and media capital of the world, significantly influencing commerce, entertainment, research, technology, education, politics, tourism, art, fashion, and sports. So guys, what do you think the future of New York City? Comment down below if you enjoy watching this video. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you for watching.
Grammarly does more than catch errors. With Grammarly, you can find